Hello, I'm Idaho State Representative Heather Scott from District 1, and I want to do a quick video on the upcoming special session and just kind of bring you up to speed with what's going on. So our governor and legislative leadership have allowed this COVID issue to go on for so long in this state, and the people are so divided. We're fighting against everything. We're fighting against mask mandates and quarantines, whether or not we should open the schools, whether we should allow the governor to violate the Constitution and write law or not. And so all this conflict's going on, and it's chaos in some areas. It's always a great time for bad actors in government to never let a good crisis go to waste. And I think our system's being exploited for personal gain. It's also a time for corruption. And so I just wanted to briefly get you up to speed and then share a few of my thoughts on the legislation we're going to be looking at. So after the COVID crisis, there were a lot of issues, and the governor actually changed law. He changed the primary election law along with 23 other laws and lots of rules and regulations. So the legislature, we were screaming to go back to session and be part of the decision making. And as you know, there was like $1.2 billion worth of federal money, and I think there's more than that now, came to the state, and that's the job of the legislature to appropriate that money. But what we had instead was the governor set up a task force to put that money where he thought was fit. So we asked for special session. I think the governor, thanks to the citizens, has started to feel some heat about bringing the legislature back to start addressing some of these issues that he was unilaterally making decisions for. And so about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we started some working committees, and these working committees were looking at legislation, but we were given specific legislation to look at, and we weren't allowed to change language, and we weren't allowed to go outside the boundaries in these special working groups to what we really wanted to address for ways to help the citizens. And in every district, we have different issues, but we were pretty much kept in these lanes with what we could and could not discuss. I was on 2 of those committees. So 2 of those committees, bills were voted on in the committee. We weren't allowed to make amendments. Some people voted on those bills, yes, just to get a special session called. All that came to a head earlier this week when the governor did his proclamation to call a special session. And the arrogance of this. So the governor, by the Constitution, is allowed to pick the subjects of a special session. He went as far as to put the exact bill language, the RS language, with the amendments that he chose to put in the proclamation that we could address. So I want to briefly go over the 2 of the subjects that we're going to be discussing, and I won't go deep into the bills, but I think you should know. So the one issue that we will be addressing, according to the governor, would be the voting centers and regionalized, which is a regionalized voting, and then opening ballots early for mail-in ballots. So while this might be important, I'm not sure it is worth a special session, but I truly believe this is cover for the other bill, which I'll get to in a minute, on immunity. So I think this is cover for the IACI bill. I also think this is a great opportunity because this is a bill that all the county clerks in the entire state have bought onto this. They want this. And so what's interesting is this is a great opportunity for someone that might be running for Secretary of State and might be announcing a little later. They're going to be in good with all the clerks of every county. So I want you to remember and watch for who's going to run for this position, because I have a feeling I know who it is, but we'll wait and see. I don't know that this is really that great of a bill, but I think it's covering up this other bill, which is the immunity bill. And I'm sure you've heard a little bit about it. And I don't want to go into a ton of detail. It is complex, but I want to hit a few things on this bill. This is not about immunity for government or businesses as it's being sold. It is about doing what you're told as a business, and then you will be given special immunity. So I want to read you a little bit of the legislative intent, and it says, the intent of this legislation is to limit liability by providing a safe harbor to all persons during a disaster and emergency arising from COVID pandemic or epidemic who in good faith efforts meet the requirements occasioned by such event. So what that's saying is, if you do what you're told by government or by a bureaucracy or by a health district, or we don't know what emergencies are going to come next. Basically, if you do what you're told, we're going to protect you, and your cases will be dismissed. It's immunity, even if that action causes harm. Another funny thing about this bill, because I think it might do a little bit about immunity, but what's interesting is the governor right now is being sued in federal court for actions of misspending. He could literally end up in prison if found guilty of his actions with misspending of the federal money. And it's funny how this bill with immunity does cover government. And I don't know, I haven't made the complete tie, but I'm kind of curious on why this is such an important bill. This is an opportunity for legislators to actually be together, to talk about some of the issues going on in our districts, possibly look into passing a resolution to end this emergency, because it will take a joint resolution by the Senate and by the House to end this emergency. So I would encourage you as citizens, if you are tired of the nonsense, wait, I'll mention one more thing. This emergency or crisis or extreme emergency or whatever we've been told it is, now in this proclamation, it's actually now been reworded to a unique crisis. And there's some other words. They kind of keep changing the words, kind of like the responsibility for these quarantines and mask mandates has gone from the executive branch, the governor ordering this, pass the buck to the health and welfare department, pass the buck to the health districts, pass the buck now to the school boards. So it's going to be really hard on who's going to get the blame for damages caused to businesses, to citizens. I just talked to a gentleman tonight from my district whose dad is very ill, and he's in a rest home, and he has cancer on his face, and they will not address the cancer because of COVID issues. And so this immunity bill is scary, and it does allow the government to have immunity, and it allows the schools to have immunity, the hospitals to have immunity. Anyone who does what they're told, and what they're being told might not be the best way to deal with what their issue is. So that's all I'm going to say for time, and I encourage you to watch the session next week. Stay tuned. It should be interesting, and thanks for watching my update.